What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development. Excited to, again, finally be back, starting to make videos again. Feels really good. Wanted to show something that, if you followed Sunny Peace channel, shout out to my boy for making day 2 at Nats. Absolutely incredible. Finishing within the top 150 players out of almost 3,000 people is insane. But I wanted to share something that I've been kind of tooling around with and almost wish I played for the main event. This is what I won the premiere with for the sneak peek a couple weeks ago, and also played in a side event and had the chance to get first place in a Win-A-Mat event. This is Punk Psychic Millennium with all the new stuff from Duelist Advanced plus Battles of Legends. If you're like me and are sick of about to go into month 8 of Malice, Bryziel, Mitsu, Fiendsmith nonsense and you want something different, I think this is a really cool option to do. I think it's actually fairly affordable as well, given, you know, the Punk stuff being reprinted is not super expensive. You don't need 3 Rising Carp in this list, and also all the stuff that came out in Duad that you want for the extra deck are all supers and below, which is really great. So yeah, apologies if the audio, the video, the setup, anything looks a little bit wonky. You can see like half of a green screen behind me that I'm trying to work on getting set up here. But yeah, I wanted to at least go ahead and share this deck profile. You'll see some stuff with the setup get ironed out. It's just been quite a while since I've had the chance to really get back into the swing of things and get things, you know, good to go. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and we'll go ahead and get started. A clean 40 card list. Haven't been able to do that in quite some time. So of course it wouldn't be a psychic deck without, of course, 3 emergency teleport. This card is absolutely amazing. Just is a starter, an extender, and just does everything you want it to do. You know, gets you into Punk, gets you into the other psychic stuff. It's just the best card at 3, absolutely amazing. For the new cards, we play 2 Serene Psychic Girl and 2 Mind Procedure. This looks a little bit wonky. We also have a couple Xiamen in here. If you're wondering why the 2 ubs are kind of the way it is, just know that it is, again, these are all technically normal summons. You can get them out through E-Telly. You can get Xiamen out through something like Foxy, but we're ignoring those facts, right? They're all normal summons, so you don't want to have too many. So that's why I chose to do 2, 2, and 2, and on the 6. To explain what these cards do, starting off with the Serene Psychic Girl here. On normal or special, I believe, you can banish a card from your hand, not for cost, but for effect. And if it does resolve, you can special any level 4 or lower Psychic from your deck to the field. And then you're locked into Psychics from the extra deck only for the rest of the turn. Mind Procedure, I think even better than that, is on normal summon or special summon from a monster effect specifically, has the ability to then pay 2,000 life points and add a teleport spell from either deck or grave back to your hand. This works with Parallel Teleport. We're obviously not playing that because some of the Punk stuff is not Psychics. Parallel Teleport, the other card locks you into Psychics before and or after you use it. So if you're playing that, it has to be a pure Psychic deck, right? And then the secondary effect of this guy is if it's banished, you can pay 1,000 life points and then bring it back. But you can only do either or of those effects once per turn. So you have to choose between those 2. And then the other 2 things to note about this is this can target psychic monsters on the board up to the amount of psychics you control and boost all their levels by 1. So that's really good for climbing. And then Mind Procedure, if it's used as a synchro summon, can be used as a non-tuner. So all really, really strong there. And then the last card is the Hushed Psychic Minister, a new common. If there's a psychic on board, specials itself from the hand for free, and then its grave effect banishes itself plus another psychic to banish a psychic on the board until the end of the turn. The reason this matters is if you're playing Lambda and want to play like Delta or Gamma, you can do that on your own turn to trigger the fact that a psychic was banished to then get Lambda to add you one of those at your end phase. But this is also just an extra great psychic extender, something you can add off of the Jam Drive and the extra deck if you don't already want to search Ghost Ogre or you don't want to search another one, a normal summon name, you need an extender. This is where that comes into play. So that's the new psychic stuff for the Punk cards here. Like I kind of talked about before, we'll move that over just a bit. 3 Foxy Tune, this is the best one. Xiamen by itself is a really bad normal summon. That sounds really crazy to say. If you're not playing stuff like Wagon, the field spell, Sharkusai to get into Carp and do all that crazy stuff, if you're doing just more of a closer to pure or low the ground build, then Foxy is the best because Then by not using your normal summon, you can use Jam Drive to get a card like Mind Procedure and get you still into everything else. So 3 of those, 1 Ogre Dance, 1 Rising Carp, and 1 Deer Note. I preferred 1, 1, and 1. That should be all you need. See if we can get this to refocus. There we go. So I was originally, you could play a third Xiamen if you want, but I just like the ability to be able to pitch Ogre Dance sometimes to add Deer Note as an actual extender, depending on how much your hand is. You could also, in theory, just cut this for something else. You don't really need it. But again, just also in the event of like having different ways to get punks into the grave for Rising Scale is also really, really good too. So that's it for the big punk names that are not our normal summons. And then, of course, like I said before, the 2 normal summons are just the 2 Xiamen. This is still a really great starter by itself. It's the worst normal summon of the 3 separate 2-ofs, right? But it still gets you into like a Monster Negate, typically plus like a level 11 Synchro, which could be like Jurasheen or something like that. So you definitely still can play this. There is a world where I've considered to cut this down and up the other Psychic stuff, just because the other normal summons are more high impact and still get you to Xiamen, but that's still something I'm experimenting with. And then we are playing the Millennium engine. This is an actual incredible package. I think this is definitely something that you play in this deck. I've also come to the conclusion that I think if you have these cards, that you can play them in almost any deck, and the value is just astronomical. We're not playing Fiendsmith in this deck. We're just using the utility of the Millennium for the Millennium. So you need all 5 in the event that you do open 2 copies. That way you can still get 2 guys in the back row to summon Doom Dragon. What this essentially does is you're either getting 2 level 8s on board plus the level 6, or you're just getting 2 level 8s. It basically gets you a way to have an interruption going first without, or going second without using your normal summon in terms of Doom Dragon. It also gives you a couple 8s, so you can make either Photon Lord to insulate your plays, or you can make a card like Zombie Vampire to mill and get you into the Psychic stuff that you otherwise maybe didn't see. But this package is amazing. Also, the win condition of this deck is Psychic and Punisher. I'm sure you probably put that together. That card is absolutely amazing. And just having an engine that progresses your game state while widening that gap for Punisher to boost your life points is absolutely incredible. So that's the Millennium engine. And then the nice thing about this deck is, even though it's 40 cards, plays 19 non-engine, so you can really adjust what you need to the format as in a very consistent deck as well, which is really nice. Some of the necessary evils, I think, of the format right now in terms of hand traps: 3 Fua, 3 Ash, and 3 Droll. I think these are, again, pretty standard till we get a ban list, even though somehow we magically didn't hear anything about it at Nats, but whatever. And then 2 Imperm, 1 Nib. I've just, now that the Charmies have existed in a deck where you can only fit 12 hand traps, this has just been my go-to 12 ratio. Is 3, 3, 3, and then 2 and 1. Been really, really solid. And then the 13th hand trap is 1 Ghost Ogre. This is something that you can search off of the Jam Drive as an additional interruption. You can always banish it from your hand or something if you need to and bring it back with Mark II. There's a lot of flexibility with this card, and it's just really, really great. Also good against certain things like Vanquish Soul, Blue Eyes, some of the fringe decks that are in the format as well. And then the non-engine remaining in the deck that are not hand traps is 1 Crossout, 1 Called By, and 1 Talents. The Trinity, of course, that we play on almost any deck, especially if you have a lot of non-engine space. And then my tech card of choice is 3 Book of Moon. I've had a lot of people, both I think through the profile I did with Sunny, plus on the punk group on Facebook, ask about why Book of Moon, why not the new Hyper Psychic Blaster level 6 guy that like pitches itself to special from hand, why not more hand traps, etc., etc. The basic reason I can really give for you revolve around how this deck functions, given it is, I would say, highly normal summon dependent, and targeting negation can really ruin your day, because if you're summoning either one of these and you get hit with like an Imperm, a Veiler, you just can't really play, which kind of sucks unless you have an extender, right? Unless you have extenders. Same thing goes for this on the actual ignition effect, right, to search. And what I found is Book of Moon acts like 3 more copies of Crossout, because in the event this was the pitch a card to special summon a guy from your hand, if you do that and you get hit with an Imperm and you don't have an extender, you still lose. So I would much rather just still see the normal summon and then have a way to protect it from the hand traps, because you can go normal this, banish, And if this gets booked, gets hand trapped, you chain book, flip this down, special this gets E-tally, and then E-tally gets this again or this again, and so that pattern kind of repeats itself. So there is a lot of flexibility there in how the engine is played through with Book of Moon. So. And then with the extra deck, I'll kind of go through by just, different card types. Starting out here, as I almost knock over my mic, one Jam Drive, one Zombie Vampire, one Photon Lord, and one Typhon. These are the main synchros of choice. If we can fix the focusing, thank you. Typhon, pretty straightforward. Again, insulating for a monster negate, extending for combos for Zombie Vampire, and then Jam Fever is just part of the end board. The nice thing about the new Psychic stuff and the new Punk stuff is you can almost always, if you're synchroing into a level 8 at some point, you can get to this at Summon 5 almost exclusively every time, so you're not worried about nib, which is also a really nice thing to not have to think about in the deck. Those are the Exceeds. And then for the synchros, Punisher, the main man himself, the best card in the deck. It's just been the most oppressive thing I've ever seen. This deck, you can pay, I would say, 3 sets of 2,000, 2 for the Millenniums each, so that's 4,000, 2,000 for Mind Procedure, that's 6,000, plus typically at least 2 sets of 600 for the Punk, up to 3 as well if you count Xiamen, Rising Carp, or Rising Scale, sorry, and Jam Drive. So you can pay typically anywhere from 72 to 7,800. So that plus the 3,500 gets you into the 11,000 plus range. So that's typically enough to just attack over something and still do 8K, which is really, really nice. One Jurasheen, this is a really great card to end on. This is kind of what helps you make up that paying life point gap. If you really do need to pay, this kind of helps recoup while your opponent just does like in what they do in the modern metagame, which is like 10 random actions till they get to something that matters. You're gaining life points and getting some resources back in the process. So Mark II, one of the new guys, this has the ability to bring back any banished monster from either player's side to your field, as well as kind of a quick interruption to banish as well. Level 9, which is something that we didn't have a really good level for before. These are both 11s. Jan Drive being an amazing level 8. Crossmind, another new level 8, and then Silent Psychic Magician being a new level 5. So Jam Drive is pretty straightforward. That gets you your level 3 Psychic. Really great card. Crossmind is kind of a pseudo time card and a little bit of a battle phase interruption. There have been a lot of times though where you make this, you do your stuff, and then on the turn 3 essentially, or your second turn of the game, you need to climb into another 8 to then climb into an 11 with Psychic and Punisher, and this is kind of one of the best ones to go into. But you could probably play any level 8 in this slot. The important thing that matters though is this takes any Psychic tuner plus any non-tuner. So this is an 8 you can make with the Golem from the Millennium engine, which does matter a lot. Silent Psychic Magician, Synchro Tuner, I believe it can also be used as a non-tuner. I have to double check that. But on Summon, Reborn's a level 3 Psychic from Grave, or level 4 lower Psychic from Grave, sorry. And locks you into Psychics for the extra deck for the rest of the turn. But this is just another engine of how you use the Serene Psychic Girl and Mind Procedure to kind of synchro climb upwards. So that is all of the synchros. And then the one flex spot in the deck as we transition into the links is the one Gorgon. This card is really good. I don't make it too often, but this is something that you could cut for Thought Ruler, or just if there's a different slot you want to put in here, this card is not necessary. But it's, similarly oppressive in the thought of like Psychic and Punisher, where they have a board. You can climb into this. It points to a couple things you negate and then be able to get to Punisher to do certain things. But, it doesn't come up too often, but again, is kind of the flex spot of the deck that I'm still testing. So the rest of the links are pretty straightforward. One IP, one SP, not much to say there. This is also versatility for something else to go into for IP. And then one Almirage as the last link. You do need this in the rare events where you just open Xiamen as your only starter, and you want to search Rising Scale, then you need to be able to link it off and then banish for Rising Scale Summon and get your other stuff going. So that's why this is kind of in here as a necessary evil. If you change the build to where you don't feel like you're ever going to be in that situation, you could also cut this as a flex spot. And then the last one is just Doom Dragon for the Millennium engine. Pretty straightforward there. So that is the extra deck, and then obviously we do have a side deck because we put it at the premiere as well as the Winamat. So talking about the side deck, this is just a very general approach, and I will fix the autofocus here in a second. There we go. A very like wide coverage based side deck that is probably not perfect, but again, not many people know what this deck does yet too. So I just kind of wanted, general coverage as we approach what I assumed was going to be new format, and kind of, a wide variety of decks at the side event level too. So 3 Lancia, 2 Perulia, and 2 Meows. Again, the Charmies aren't needed. I would say like you should get the Fuo reprint if you definitely haven't, but all the other ones live without. You could play Chaos Hunter, you can play Phantasma, you could play the Rescue Ace package. There's a lot of other cards that you can supplement for that kind of drawing piece there. Sorry, the focus is kind of going crazy today. And then some Board Breaker S cards. I put a couple Slayers in here just because you have Synchro, Exceeds, Links, and Fusions all in your extra deck, so the natural utility is there without having to side extra deck targets. 2 Lightning Storm, again, one of the best Board Breakers still ever printed. 2 Salesman, again, I wanted something that had a lot of coverage against a variety of matchups, as well as like being able to call Droll or certain problematic cards that you're really, really worried about is nice. And then just 2 Judgment as kind of a well-rounded piece to an end board, right, going first. Something where, again, for siding patterns, I can keep in 1 crossout designator, side out 2 of the Fuelos, keep in that third Fuelos, and be able to still put in 2 going first cards. So that's it. That's the main deck, a clean 40 cards, side and extra. That is Punk Psychic Millennium. I hope you guys liked it. It's really great to have a first video back and something a little bit different to enter the fray of people getting sick of the 7 to 8 month format we've been in. So I'll see you guys next week. Later.